So that leads us to our last question. How do you train your mind to believe again? What are some practical...
That's really good. I mean, for me, just going back to the law of attraction, giving myself the freedom and the space to think about different dreams and what could be possible. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't always have to have evidence and hard-based facts to say why something can or can't work. But just daydreaming about what could be possible can give you the motivation and the drive to say, I'm willing and I want to go out on a limb here and believe in myself to even try this. Because even if I get close to the possibility I've been dreaming about, would be such a fun adventure.
I feel like the way I put that is like you have to be like mildly delusionally optimistic.
Yeah.
Because whenever the storm hits and everything's falling apart, that you may not even see what's worth being optimistic about in the moment, but just like Jocko says, whenever something comes up that's a problem, he always says good.
Yeah, good.
He doesn't know what that good is.
No.
You don't know what it's going to be. But if you can just grab onto that idea, that hope that something good is going to come out of this, that is really, I think for me at least, that's all I need. Whenever, sometimes it rubs people the wrong way, but whenever some people tell me, like when I was a manager at a restaurant and I had a server call me, they were supposed to be there at 4, it's 4:05. They call me and they say, hey, I got a flat tire on the way to work. I was like, good, I'll see you when you get here. Like, because,
like, what did he just
yeah,
say?
like good.
Yeah.
But for me, I've had to condition myself to just latch onto that good thing and say, you know what, like maybe it prevented them from getting in a car accident on the way to work. Maybe, you never know. But for whatever reason, that thing happened. Mm-hmm. And it's that quote, everything happens for a reason. I didn't know that there was actually a second part of that quote, though. It's everything happens for a reason, and it's usually for the best. Ooh. So reminding myself that even if the world falls apart, there's probably a good reason for it, and it's probably going to work out better in the long run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just think about you as a manager. If that consistently happened to you in a 6-month window where somebody's having mechanical issues or tire or kid's sick or whatever, if you approach it like you did and you consistently do, in my mind, I can see from just a snapshot of what that would look like at the end of 6 months, you'd become a manager that's capable of handling any curveball thrown at you.
Yeah.
Like the owner can come in and be like, dude, Quentin, it doesn't matter what comes up. After every day I come in, it looks like everything's just running smooth as butter. At the end of the day, I keep hearing he's having to put these fires out, but I can never tell because he just takes care of them. Mm-hmm. And since you approach it that way, you're not complaining like, well, they didn't come in and they didn't that, and they're constantly making me, be behind, and they're doing this, they're doing that. And you're like, good, I'm going to be able to handle this circumstance and figure out the skills necessary to navigate this. And suddenly you're the manager who is indisposable because they're like, dude, I don't know what you need to be paid, and I don't know where you want to work and how you want to work, but I need you on my team. And that creates that value that's bigger than you, because that's skills that most people don't acquire because they don't want to face those problems. They don't see them as opportunities.
Right. And some other things I've implemented in my own life to train my mind to believe again. When I get so wrapped up in my head, because I'm a thinker, so like I'm always in my head, but there's several moments throughout the week where I get so lost in it, just because I'm listening to like educational podcasts or I'm studying or whatever it is. I can get so lost in that. And something else that keeps me from drowning is actually, I just listen to comedy podcasts. Like I listen to things that make me laugh, that just snap me back out of it.
Yeah, change direction in your thought pattern. Yeah, focus on something that's uplifting.
Yeah, and laughter is key. Like learning to laugh at things is really big for me. Like I said, people would tell me they had a flat tire. Okay, good. Like,
Yeah, right?
Like,
Yeah.
make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Move on.
That's why it's so important to even be intentional about your time. Like if you're working a 9-to-5 job, and especially maybe it's something that is draining, that's why it's so important to be intentional while you're at work. It's something big in yourself, but to be able to come home and have your family life in order to say, hey, I know regardless of what kind of day I have, I can come home and laugh and giggle, watch a movie, play a board game, share a good meal with people I love, and take a distraction and take a different thought pattern in life at home that's a reprieve from everything the world's throwing at me and expecting from me.
Right.
So that's another key piece of saying, yeah, it's important to shift our focus on something that is refreshing and fulfilling. Your prayer life, getting into the Word is another thing that distracts you from all the problems and pain and frustrations of this broken world we live in. That's a really good practical piece that you shared in helping us believe again, for sure.
How much do you think adjusting your expectations would help you believe in whatever it is again?
Honestly, my challenge I'm trying to let go of expectations completely. Because
how's that going?
it's so hard because my earthly mind wants to say kind of like the same thing. If it's not fitting in this certain mold, it's unsuccessful. You know what I mean? And unmet expectations slowly lead to resentment. Because whatever you expect, if it doesn't fit that exact mold, you're like, well, it's just a failure. But if I can let go of expectations and just enjoy what does happen organically, it's really leading me to the principle of practicing being grateful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Grateful for whatever I do have. And it helps me go all the way down to thank you for my health. Thank you for one more day to serve you, Lord, and to serve the people around me. Being mindful of just the little bitty moments, like you're talking about, just enjoying and slowing life down. It is a challenge, but that's where rewiring our brains to know the difference between the world's definition of who we are and the heavenly definition of who we are. And it is a challenge, and it takes time. And I'm growing to love the process of going through those things, because through doing any of these pieces, the longer it takes, the more fulfilling it is at the end. And that's not what our culture sets us up to believe or even think is a positive thing. With the internet speeds, microwaves, cell phones, once again, even our brains are saying, how can I be as comfortable and problem-free in my life as I possibly can be? And learning to lean into those moments that stretch me and grow me and say good, like you're pointing out, and in just accepting whatever comes can help me stay away from resenting the fact that I don't have something somebody else does.
Yeah.
I don't put these crazy expectations on my wife or kids as I have done before. And if they don't do certain things, I feel like they're maybe messing up the direction of their life or our relationship or whatever it is. And it brings that resentment and frustration in. And that's that accountability to me. Like, hey, how can you let go of those things and just enjoy and honor those around you where they are and enjoy their growth process as well?
Yeah. Because you have to realize too, like, not everybody, people have to want to fix the thing or to latch onto your vision. They have to want to latch onto the vision. But going off of the definition of what the world says and what it means to be a Christ follower, I feel like the world says, take yours while you can. Yeah. But being a Christ follower says, sacrifice what you have.
It's two polar opposites. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is as far away as you can get. And it's not like, it would be easy if it was like a little closer, like if the Lord was like, hey, take most of it, but give up a little, you know what I mean?
That's easy to do.
Right. Like, hey, I'll give up, an hour a week and, fit right into that mold. And then the rest of the week, I can just take everything I want. But it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. And it is a big sacrifice to move from one, defining system to another. And and you're right, we have to make that choice. who am I to say if God gives us free will and he won't even force us to do that and we get to choose, why would I believe, as I've done before, that I could impose other people to do the work or to grow or to see things from a bigger perspective or dream or, think outside the box? You can't. The best way we can help other people do that is by demonstrating, just like your grandfather inspired you to be so serving in one of the most difficult circumstances of his life, to see the love of his life go through something so difficult, hard on her body, ultimately ended up being, terminal in her sickness. And for him to navigate that in a way that was just so serving and loving and giving, that's how we can inspire other people to say, you know what, I want to do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's just by being that example and doing it, so that even if we are the only ones that ultimately do it in our own little sphere of our world, we at least get the peace of knowing we let those things go that truly don't define us, even if nobody else around us sees it.
Which is why it's so important with who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you do need that. You also need to be surrounded by other dreamers. You also need to be surrounded by other people. Because if you can see it, you can believe it.
100%. It deepens the belief. You can believe it without seeing it, you're right. But it is very hard to make that step without seeing evidence. And people do it. But to be in a situation where you believe it and then see evidence, just like you were talking about your sphere of other business owners that you spend a lot of time with, it's almost convicting at that point to say, not only do I believe it, I can't help but act on this because I have the evidence right in front of me.
Right.
100%.
Well, in that instance right there too, it's because I'm surrounded by these guys. It pushes me to be better for them, not just for myself.
Right.
But if I can improve what I'm capable of producing for them, that benefits them, that benefits me. It's a healthy cycle of just growth.
A beautiful ecosystem of people taking care of people, loving Jesus and loving others. And you're right, it gives you a chance to be a part of something bigger than yourself, which brings that piece of saying, I matter, even if I'm struggling with money, even if I don't have a big house, even if I don't drive, a brand new car, whatever it is, I matter regardless of the standards of what the world's put on me.
Right.
And that's beautiful because anybody's world can come crashing down. Enron folded and lost a lot of people's 401ks. They bought into the system and got all the way to the end and it disappeared. And a lot of people unfortunately struggled saying like, there's my identity flushed down the drain. But if you can make that move up front and saying, hey, I matter regardless of whether this works or not, your circumstances, your problems no longer define you. And that's a place of peace that is something that I hope I never give up, but I don't see how I ever could. Because once you taste that, you realize, man, I'm trying to give up the world as quick as I can. And I believe that's what Jesus was trying to show us, of saying, man, lay your life down, pick up your cross and follow me. Because if you do, you will taste the peace that transcends all understanding, and you will have a life filled with purpose that nobody else can give you.
That's good.
It makes me think of another practical way that you're really good at doing, and you've brought up multiple times in these episodes, and it's asking questions. You asked, how do you train your mind to believe again? And a lot of times we as adults, and especially through struggles and frustrations and listen to the wrong people, our initial reaction is to say, that won't work. Well, okay, if you're in that spot and that's a habit of yours, or somebody else says that, get good at asking why.
Yeah.
Write down, why will that not work? But don't stop there. Write down why it would work as well.
Or what if it did work?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
that's a good one. A whole nother column. What if it did work, and what would I enjoy about what that would produce in my life? That's huge. But we usually don't even go past it won't work to even give ourselves evidence of why it won't. Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how many times I've gone through this, and it's hard to even find evidence of why it won't work. You got maybe a couple of reasons why it might not work, and then your column of why it would work is like way through the roof, and you're like, well, why was that my natural response? To either believe somebody that said to me it wouldn't work, or why was it my natural inclination to believe immediately, no, that probably wouldn't work? Because here's the evidence, right? I didn't even consider the facts. And then, like you said, tack on, well, what if it did? That's where dreaming comes in. Like, man, I could be here, and here, and I can enjoy potentially talking and networking with this group of people and traveling and seeing and inspiring and man, talk about a simple thing that you could execute and help you keep dreaming. Just write those things down. Give yourself evidence to actually why you believe what you believe.
Right.
And if you're lacking that evidence, you need to change what you believe.
Well, and then so the second question after that, so let's say you write out this list, what if it does work? For me, there was another fear that kicked in of doing it the first time and then not get traction, or doing it the second time and it doesn't do anything. But what I do is I'm not saying a specific number, but let's just take this podcast, for example.
Yeah.
If somebody came and told us, hey, it's going to take 57 episodes for y'all to
Oh, I know where you're
start
going.
speaking at public events or whatever.
Yeah.
If it took 57, any number.
Yeah.
57, 63, whatever.
Like it was the magic number. Yeah.
Would that change your relationship with failure?
Yeah.
Would that change your relationship with the other 56 episodes that you're going to do?
I mean, if I knew that, I would film probably 56 in just one day just to get through them and be like, let's go. 57 is the magic number. And it would change how scary 56 failures even look. That's putting things into perspective. That's a good, great
So
point.
that's that delusional optimism I'm talking about, is because do I know it's a guarantee that anything I do is going to be a success? No. But if I can attach myself to the belief that somewhere out there there's a number of failures I have to get through to get to that thing, that completely changed my relationship with failure. 100%. That completely changed my perception on watching numbers or watching anything, because that's not the purpose. I believe that the failures are fine-tuning what the end result is going to be. So rather than be afraid of them, you have to embrace them, because all it's doing is chiseling away. It's fine-tuning the final product that the world needs to receive.
Yes.
That's, I believe, whenever, and it's not every time, because there's some stupid things that go viral for no reason, just because.
Right. But usually they're not able to consistently keep that. But you're right. Yeah.
But I also believe things go viral for a reason, in a way that I don't ever understand. So I feel like anything that I do that takes off, it's because it has been tested, it has been tried, it has gone through enough failure and resistance to withstand whatever the next thing is.
Yeah.
And you see that with people that do go viral and then they crash and burn afterwards, because they haven't built that resistance. They haven't failed enough to be resistant to it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I look at in myself, is I try to get as much failure out of the way as possible, right off the gate. Quick story I have demonstrating that was learning to paddleboard.
Yeah.
My brother, my younger brother, 5 years younger than me, he paddleboards all the time. We were paddleboarding on the ocean, and every time I got on, I instantly just kept falling off. Like I would start rowing and then I'd fall off. And then there was one time I started shaking a little bit, and I could have not fallen, but I just let myself fall, because I was like, nope, like you had your wrong balance, you know? And my brother was like, he was watching me just fall over and over and over again. And he asked me, why did you fall that time? I know you could have saved it. And it was and in my head, it was because, I could have corrected, but it hurt more to fail, which is going to allow me to be more intentional the next time I climb up on the paddleboard, because I know when I climbed up the time previous to it, I put my foot on wrong. So like I shook a little bit. So now I know if I fall, it's going to hurt a little bit more. But when I get up, I'm going to make sure my foot's in the right spot. So after that, like I think I fell maybe twice, and then we were paddleboarding across the bay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So moral of the story, I have developed this very healthy, what I believe is a very healthy relationship with failure.
Yeah.
because I'm not looking at it as failure. I'm seeing it as it's getting me one step closer to being, it's one step closer to being proficient at whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. It's unbecoming everything that's holding you back from being in that spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it ties into even what we were talking about, giving up expectations. You know, if you are focused on failure growing you, and if you're growing, you're already winning.
Yeah.
You know, if we did put numbers and limitations on, now if we set goals with what we're going to do this podcast, that's fine. You know, but we have to be careful about those becoming expectations and being the only defining factor of whether we're successful or not. Set goals, but don't let it define the definition of success of what you're doing.
Right.
The fact that we are growing through this and we are getting better, regardless of whether this podcast takes off in comparison to anybody else we follow, it doesn't matter, because we are winning by simply challenging ourselves.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where we have been doing good at letting go of those expectations in our planning, our strategizing of setting up these episodes. We're saying, hey, this, it doesn't really matter. We've been putting pressure on it. It doesn't matter. And it's let us come with our best foot forward, not carrying those expectations. And we come in with our more authentic self, and we get to enjoy this more, removing those expectations, enjoying what comes out of these episodes for us first, and then for whoever's listening. If you get a piece out of this, great. But ultimately, it starts right here in our own hearts, in our own relationships with Jesus, and what we're going to put out in the world around us, and inspiring, helping others dream, being heroes for those around us to say, hey, you matter, and you have an opportunity to be around somebody in me that believes in the biggest pieces of your life, because I've seen it as evidence in mine. God talks about it in the Bible. We have evidence right here that says you were created for a time such as this, and you have a purpose for the time you're here on earth.
That's good.
So
when you're at the deepest point of the valley during a hard season, what's the first thing you do to stay optimistic?
The best practice that I've had, and it's one that's more recent in my life, and it's speaking affirmations over myself on a daily basis. It's on my structured app. It's one of the first things I do, because it's that law of attraction. It's what I set my mind on and my thoughts on. And it's that reminder. In that deepest valley, typically you're at a point where you've potentially lost or on your way to losing everything around you. But the reminder is, I can lose everything and everyone around me. As long as I don't lose the Lord, I may have unfortunate circumstances and unfavorable circumstances around me. But since I'm not holding on to this world, I'm not as bothered by losing those things, because I'm going to remind myself who God says I am. I'm going to keep that relationship healthy, so that whether I am in the valley or I'm on the peak, I don't lose that focus. So those affirmations are huge for me.
That's good.
Of actually saying who I am that matches God's word. So while I'm in the valley, I don't get convinced that I'm something else and that I'm lacking things that don't truly matter.
That's good. I feel
It's not easy. But,
not at all, no.
But if you practice that habit, especially in the easier times of life, when you get to that point, you have already built that habit and believe those things as defining characteristics of your life, and they are easier to hold on to. That's why it's important to start now. And whatever you're doing in life, to start immediately, so that you're not trying to start when you are on the brink of losing everything you thought was most important.
That's good. I think I never thought about it this way until you said what you said, but I kind of do the same thing, except I don't feel like, for me, I'm already having to counteract so many. I'm already having to counteract so many habits I've already developed. So for me, like, I can't just say affirmations to myself, but for me, like, I have to go serve somebody else, because that is giving me back the affirmation of who God called me to be, which is to serve.
Yeah.
So an example,
Acting it out, walking it out, yeah.
yeah. And so, like, an example is serve somebody else, whether that's my wife, or before we got married, there was one moment, I'll make it quick. but I had like $13 in my checking account, and I was miserable because I had $13 in my checking account. But I was driving over to a friend's, and I saw a homeless person, so I bought lunch with whatever I had, and I actually sat down with this person, and I didn't even know why. Like, I just sat down with them, and they were not in the right state of mind. Like, I don't know if they were using anyway, but just serve somebody else is the main point.
Yeah.
Because as wrong as it may sound, but it's that reminder that no, somebody definitely has it worse than you.
It's true. Yeah.
But like what you said, I think for me, what the deeper meaning of it is it's reaffirming, like, I'm walking in that truth of who I was created to be, of serve no matter what.
Yep.
Because that peace I get afterwards and the motivation to keep going is so much worth. It's worth so much more than me just paying for somebody's lunch.
Yeah. It went from I only have $13 to I'm thankful I have 13 when somebody else doesn't.
Yes.
I mean, that's a game changer.
Yes. That's gratitude. That's it's all of it.
Yeah. Because once again, it'd be easy to have 13 million in your bank account and not have to worry about it. But how can you be grateful, walk in purpose, be at peace if you only have 13, which I've been there as well. And it's been stressful to feel like I'm failing because certain standards that I allowed myself to believe, having 13 or 13 million does not define me.
Yeah.
You know, that's it could be, one can be easier than the other, but it does not add or take away to my identity.
That's so good.
And when we focus on that piece, that brings all of these pieces together from question 1 to question 3 of what we talked about, and really helping us see the bigger picture about what truly matters, why we matter. And when we really focus on that, believe it, and really get down to the definition of it, nothing, no problem, no circumstances, no lack of money or a lot of money can dissuade us from staying who we truly are for not only our time on earth, but for eternity in the kingdom of heaven. Another episode of Price of Purpose. I'm so thankful for what we talked about today, how much it challenged me personally. And I'm committed to the daily discipline and the habits it takes to learn what these principles truly mean and how to stay there living day in and day out. So thank you guys for joining us. Until next episode, I look forward to another meeting with my boy Q here. We'll see you on the flip side.
That's a wrap.